Hello and welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream. As August comes to a close, we have one final Premier League game for the day as West Ham host the champions Manchester City at the London Stadium. The Hammers progressed through to the League Cup third round in midweek after a last-minute winner against Bournemouth, but in the league it's a 50-50 record with a defeat on the opening weekend at home to Villa, but bounced back with a 2-0 win on the road at Palace last week. For Manchester City, they started their season with silverware as they beat rivals Manchester United in the Community Shield final, and the winning has continued with 6 points from 6, winning away at Chelsea on the opening weekend and then at home last week to newly promoted Ipswich Town. The two times these sides met last season, it was the same result, with City winning away in mid-September and at home on the final day, both games ending 3-1. West Ham have not beaten Manchester City since 2015 in the Premier League and have not beaten them at home in the league since October 2014. The Blues are looking for a fifth win in a row against the home side tonight. So, will it be a rare win for West Ham over Manchester City, or does Pep Guardiola have the master plan to beat Lopetegui's Hammers? It is two Spanish managers colliding together this afternoon as West Ham take on Pep Guardiola, take on Manchester City, and of course for West Ham they've got Julian Lopetegui as their new manager, and of course Pep Guardiola here at Manchester City, 8 years at the club. This is 475th game in charge. He's won 351, drawn 57 and lost 66. He actually won his first 10 games in a row, Pep Guardiola, as Manchester City manager. And in the last game against Ipswich, he conceded his 250th goal as Manchester City manager in the Premier League. And also I was researching, and this does surprise me, the fact, Manchester City are currently on a run of 4 Premier League wins in a row. In terms of titles, but the last time Pep Guardiola won Manager of the Month was in December 2021. Just seems like a long time for a manager to win a Manager of the Month award when they have won 4 Premier Leagues in a row. But sometimes the best do go unrecognised because that's what we expect from them, just to be that good all the time, and that's no different for Pep Guardiola. But in terms of head-to-head, like I said, last season it was 3-1 wins for Manchester City, and just overall in recent times Manchester City have dominated this fixture. They've only lost 2 of the last 16 against West Ham in all competitions, and the last 5 draws in this fixture have been at West Ham. It's not a fixture that West Ham enjoy too much. They've only won 1 of and the last time that West Ham won against Manchester City recently was in the League Cup back in October 2021, but they did need penalties that day to win. But overall, it's mainly Manchester City who are the team on top in this fixture. But it's a brand new look West Ham team, club, you could even say as well, with Lopetegui bringing in so many new players, 9 new signings in the end, including another one. So that goes up to 10 because they brought in a loan signing of Soler last night from PSG. He's not in the matchday squad today. But he's more cover, I think, for James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse went on loan to Nottingham Forest, and they brought in that Carlos Soler from PSG, so they have definitely covered up the loss of Ward-Prowse and brought in another central midfielder. Kick-off is just over 5 minutes away, and we'll go through both starting 11s very shortly. As for West Ham, of course, it's a winning start for them in terms of their away run in the Premier League, winning last week at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace, but at home they fell to a defeat on the opening day, losing 2-1 to Aston Villa. Unfortunately, going behind quite early in the 4th minute, Onana scored for Aston Villa, then Paqueta got himself a penalty just before half-time and scored it, but then with 10 to play, West Ham target John Duran ended up scoring for Aston Villa off the bench. And then for Manchester City, it's been 3 games, 3 wins so far, if you include the Community Shield in that, when they beat Manchester United on penalties. But in the Premier League, it's 2 wins from 2. 2-0 win against Chelsea, goals from Haaland and Kovacic, and then a 5-1 win 4-1 win last week to Ipswich, with Haaland scoring a hat-trick and De Bruyne also scoring alongside Haaland's hat-trick. As we'll go through both sets of lineups now, we'll start with the home side of West Ham, who make 2 changes from that win away at Crystal Palace last week, and it is Alphonse Areola to remain in goal, as he is now definitely West Ham's number 1. He took that mantle last season. Aaron Wan-Bissaka signed for £15 million. He comes in as one of the 2 changes from last week. He'll play in the back 4 with Konstantinos Mavropanos, another new signing of Max Kilman, and also Emerson. And 2 holding midfielders, Guido Rodriguez, who is brought in on a free this summer from Betis, will partner alongside Edson Alvarez, who gets his first start of the season in the Premier League. Just in front of them is Lucas Paqueta, who had interest from Manchester City last season, but of course the whole betting scandal came to light and Manchester City cooled their interest on the Brazilian. And 3 in front of him will be Jarrod Bowen on the right, newly named captain of West Ham after the departure of Declan Rice and Angelo Ogbonna as well, leaving West Ham, so he has been named the new West Ham captain. On the left will be Mohamed Kudus, who's making his 49th appearance today for West Ham. He scored against Manchester City last season at the Etihad on that final day where Manchester City went on to lift the Premier League title. And through the middle, West Ham's all-time leading goal scorer in the Premier League, and that is Mikel Antonio. He's got 67 Premier League goals in his career since joining in September 2015 from Nottingham Forest. And for Manchester City, just 1 change from their 2 starting 11s against Chelsea and Ipswich. They were unchanged, but they've been forced into one today. It's Ederson to remain in goal. Back 4, Rico Lewis, Manuel Akanji, who's making appearance number 100 for Manchester City, Ruben Diaz and Josko Gvardiol. With 3 in the midfield, Mateo Kovacic, who came off injured against Ipswich in their last game, makes his 50th Manchester City appearance after recovering in time. 2 in front of him will be Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, whose first ever Manchester City goal came against West Ham back in September 2015, the last time West Ham beat Manchester City in the Premier League. And then 3 up front. On the right will be Jeremy Doku. On the left will be Jack Grealish, who comes in for the injured Savinho, the Brazilian winger who's had a fantastic start to life in a Manchester City shirt. He's picked up a little knock, so he's been replaced by Jack Grealish. He's not in the matchday squad. And of course, through the middle is Erling Haaland, who has scored 4 goals in 4 against West Ham, 2 on his debut back here on the London Stadium in 2022. And his record is just absolutely ridiculous, making his 102nd Manchester City appearance. He's already got 94 goals, 10 hat-tricks. 1 of them away. I thought there'd be more than that, but only 1 of them has come away from the Etihad Stadium, and that was against Luton in the FA Cup back in February of this year. And I believe he scored 4 in that game. Or did he score 5? He may have scored 5 in that game against Luton. He did. He scored 5 against Luton in the FA Cup game, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's very unlike Pep Guardiola to not change his team. But in the first 2 games of the Premier League season, he opted to not change anything. But he's only been forced into a change this afternoon due to the injury of the Brazilian winger Savinho. So that means Jack Grealish comes in, who's missed the start of the competitive season with a little bit of an injury. He came off the bench against Ipswich in the 70th minute. He was on the bench against Chelsea and didn't feature, and he also missed the Community Shield final against Manchester United at Wembley. So it's been a bit of a frustrating start to the season for Jack Grealish, who, featured very heavily in Manchester City's pre-season, but of course just picked up a slight little niggle just before the start of the season. But he's back in today from the start, Jack Grealish. He's got 3 goals against West Ham in his career, all of them coming here at the London Stadium, 2 of them for Aston Villa and 1 of them for Manchester City. So it does look like we're going to get Manchester City to kick us off here, kicking right to left, West Ham left to right. We just had a minute of silence there for the passing of Sven-Göran Eriksson. Very sad news, his passing just last week. But we're about to get underway, waiting for the referee's whistle here of Michael Oliver, the 39-year-old, who will get proceedings underway here at the London Stadium as Kevin De Bruyne kicks us off, playing it all the way back to Ederson on the edge of the 18-yard box for Manchester City. He plays a pass to the left-back here of Josko Gvardiol, returns it to Ederson as he had Jarrod Bowen chasing him down from behind. So it is the Brazilian goalkeeper to have a bit of time on the ball, and he'll give it back to Gvardiol, left-back. Spins out, plays it to his left here to De Bruyne towards this near touchline, goes back to Diaz and then to De Bruyne in a left-back position here. Finds the edge of the area to Kovacic. His touch is a little loose. Alvarez trying to take it off him, but he can work it to his right to Akanji. And now out to the right-back, Rico Lewis has been named in Lee Carsley's first England squad. made his one and only appearance for England last year in November, winning man of the match against North Macedonia. He was on the bench for the friendly against Belgium in March of this year, but didn't come onto the pitch. And he's really impressing Pep Guardiola, Rico Lewis, keeping Kyle Walker out of the team at the moment, who's not got that call up into the next England squad for the internationals in September. There's Mikel Antonio for West Ham, gets a cross into the box towards a penalty spot off the head of Akanji, a volley away from Rico Lewis, so as far as Emerson, as West Ham can attack in the final third. It's Kudus on the left-hand side, running at Rico Lewis and gets the cross in, which deflects towards Antonio and cleared by Diaz. He went across goal. I think the touch came off Gvardiol, who was trying to deal with Antonio, and the touch got it away from goal as De Bruyne's been bullied off the ball here. Cross goes in by Rodriguez for West Ham, comes off Ruben Diaz. Wan-Bissaka will keep it in on this near side. It's West Ham who have got off to the brighter start so far here at the London Stadium, putting Manchester City under some early pressure here in their own half. Wan-Bissaka tries to go down the line towards Bowen, cut out by Josko Gvardiol. It'll be a West Ham throw in midway inside the Manchester City half. It'll be taken by their new number 29 of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, of course, formerly of the red side of Manchester. He featured in 12 Manchester derbies, winning 6 of them. So not a bad record, as of course all of his derby appearances have come against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. But that was a close goal there. Antonio almost had a tap-in at the far post from a couple of yards out, but it was strong defending from Josko Gvardiol. As it stays at 0-0, and it's West Ham on the ball on the halfway line with their number 26, a new signing for £40 million, and that is Max Kilman. And Maidenhead, his former club who play in the National League, received £4 million of that £40 million paid because they inserted a 10% sell-on clause when they sold him to Wolves. So it's great to see Maidenhead getting £4 million of his transfer fee as Paqueta lifts it into the 18-yard box, headed away towards the penalty spot by Diaz. De Bruyne again caught out in possession. It drops to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, tackled by Grealish. Wan-Bissaka then wins it back off Kovacic. Bowen's free, just outside the box on the right-hand side, onto his left foot, shoots towards goal, and it's palmed away by Ederson. Rico Lewis misses the volley. It's Kudus outside the area, tackled by Doku. Lewis comes out of it and he's nudged to the ground by Antonio, and in the right-back position, that'll be a Manchester City free kick, but it's been a good start from the Hammers here. Just little by little at the start of this game, West Ham just starting to knock on the door at Manchester City, having a shot at goal there by Bowen, and of course Antonio didn't get his shot off, but he was very close at the far post from an earlier cross, which nearly turned it into the back of the net. But positive start here for West Ham, and they need to be on the front foot early on if they want to try and hurt Manchester City and get ahead, like Ipswich did last week against them. Sammy Szmodic scored in the 7th minute, but in the opening 3.5, it's West Ham on top at the moment. Lewis on the halfway line, playing it down the right side. A high ball, header won by Kilman, up towards Akanji, who controls it, and he'll send it back to the goalkeeper of Ederson in Manchester City's 18-yard box. He's never been beaten by West Ham in his career, Ederson, in 12 attempts, keeping 5 clean sheets in those 12, 3 of them coming away from home as well. It's still with Ederson on the ball, not being pressed at the moment by the West Ham front line. For Manchester City, they lost 3 times last season on the road in the Premier League against Aston Villa, Arsenal and Wolves. You know, they did win 10 of their last 11 away games in the league at the back end of last season, taking them to that Premier League title where they finished on 89 points. Sorry, they finished on 91 points. Sorry, they finished on 89 the season before, but a 91-point finish it was, and that was enough for them last season. There's Doku on the right wing for today, tackled by Emerson. Kicks the ball out. Manchester City throwing on the far side, and Akanji will throw it to the halfway line here to the number 3 of Ruben Diaz, who came through at Benfica and actually started as a striker when he joined Benfica back in 2008, and then was converted into a centre-half, and he's one of the best in the world, making his 120th Premier League appearance as Kovacic switches out to the left. It's Grealish, bit of time on the ball, controls it, 1-on-1 with Wan-Bissaka, plays it down the line for De Bruyne towards the byline. He can work a cross in, and it's volleyed away by Kilman. Up in the air it goes. It'll be controlled here by Gvardiol, who's been forced back to the halfway line. Plays it to Diaz in the centre circle. It's out to his right to Manuel Akanji, and now back with Ruben Diaz tonight. As it's De Bruyne, just peeling out to this left-hand side, everything to his right. This goes back to Gvardiol, who will bring it forward. It's now midway inside the West Ham half, again with De Bruyne, playing it through the legs of Wan-Bissaka to Grealish in the area, left-hand side. Playing it through for Bernardo Silva. Lifts it to the far post. Haaland with the header. And from 6 yards out, he's put it over the crossbar. Huge opportunity there for Erling Haaland, who you'd expect to score those kind of opportunities. Brilliant ball by De Bruyne to slip it through the legs of Wan-Bissaka. And Grealish chopped onto his right foot. Delayed his pass to allow Bernardo Silva to overlap. And then it was Bernardo Silva to just lift it into Haaland, who was all alone. It was a free header for him. And whatever other people might say, he's got to be scoring that. Huge opportunity for Manchester City, just over 6 minutes in here. And it's all square at 0-0. West Ham started strong the first 3 minutes, and then the second 3 minutes of the game so far, Manchester City have just started to rubber stamp their authority on this game. As West Ham now have it just inside their own half with Mavropanos being closed down by De Bruyne. But could work it to the right back of Wan-Bissaka. Wants to go forward, goes inside to Alvarez and lifts it back out to the right wing towards Bowen. Controlled by Gvardiol, sends it back to Diaz on the edge of the 18-yard box for Manchester City, and then back once more to Ederson, who in fact missed the Copa America in the summer for Brazil due to injury. Was subbed off 3 times last season in Premier League matches, most famously away at Tottenham when Stefan Ortega took his place and made that unbelievable save on Heung-min Son. City build into the West Ham half. It's Doku going back into the City half here with Manuel Akanji in their away kit. Tonight, Manchester City, the 1999 inspired shirt when they were promoted in that very famous playoff match against Gillingham. Paul Dickoff with that all-important goal to take it to penalties. As everyone behind the ball for West Ham, as Diaz has got it on the halfway line. Lifts it to the left again. Grealish allowed to have the room here on this near side. He's going to run at Wan-Bissaka, lays it off to the edge of the box to De Bruyne. Left-footed ball into the far post where it goes towards Doku. Glanced away by Emerson. Collected by Kudus. Tackled by Rico Lewis, who will advance forward himself. Just about stays on his feet. Tries to flick it back towards Doku, who will keep it away from Kudus. Well kept there on the Manchester City right. And it's now Kovacic midway side the West Ham half. And again, West Ham have everyone behind the ball. Shows how far back they're sitting at the moment. And it's Grealish. Laying it off for De Bruyne just inside the area. Right-footed shot. It's well blocked by Mavropanos. And hurried away by Alvarez. Just starting to grow into the game now. Manchester City. And their captain Kevin De Bruyne getting the latest shot off at goal. As Gvardiol throws it to De Bruyne. Chest it down. Pulled to the ground. But the referee allows play to carry on as Bernardo Silva works it to Akanji. Lays it off here for the number 8 of Mateo Kovacic. Making his 50th Manchester City appearance tonight. And he's 175th in the Premier League as Akanji lifts it out to the left-hand side again. This time it's De Bruyne in the space. Low ball to the edge of the area to Grealish. De Bruyne is still free and he'll use him. Wan-Bissaka not getting too tight to De Bruyne as his pass is deflected away by Rodriguez, and Antonio's the one to lose out in the end. Just over hits his touch. And Manchester City quick to get possession back as De Bruyne slips it in behind for Bernardo Silva, and the angle tries to pull it back. Blocked off by Mavropanos, and it's a Manchester City corner on this near side. It was a good start from West Ham, but now Manchester City starting to do what Manchester City does. As this fixture has 100 years of history. The first meeting between these two was on the 26th of April 1924. As from this in-swinging corner, it'll be a right boot of Kevin De Bruyne to take it. It's a deep one to the far post where Gvardiol glances it wide in the end. He was battling with Emerson, but couldn't quite work it on target, the Croatian, who played every minute last season against West Ham in his debut season for Manchester City, Josko Gvardiol. Signed for £77 million by RB Leipzig. Just aged 22, as West Ham have it with Paqueta. Goes to the left-back Emerson, midway side zone half. Back to Paqueta, but it's a loose ball, and Bernardo Silva picks it up, slips it through for Haaland in the area. Erling Haaland will not miss, and he does not miss. Almost a carbon copy of his first Manchester City goal that he scored here 2 seasons ago. On his left foot, just very calmly placing it into the bottom left corner. And 10 minutes in, Manchester City have a lead here at the London Stadium. Haaland on the score sheet again. He scored in all 3 Premier League games so far this season. Scored in the first half against Chelsea, a hat-trick last week against Ipswich, and again here against West Ham. Poor ball by Emerson, leaving Paqueta in a little bit of a pickle in the midfield. The ball was taken away from him by Bernardo Silva, who had a simple ball through for Erling Haaland, who got in between the two centre-backs. And Areola dived one way. Erling Haaland slotted it the other. Bottom left corner, easy as you like. Erling Haaland just does not miss them kind of chances. And he hasn't this time. And here at the London Stadium, it's West Ham 0, Manchester City 1. Erling Haaland with the goal. Gifted to Manchester City, really, by Emerson, playing that really poor ball to Lucas Paqueta. And again, he's lost the ball here, Paqueta. This time, a poor touch allows Kovacic to come in and take it away. And City can build from the halfway line here with their number 17 of Kevin De Bruyne, who's got 3 in 16 against West Ham. It's now Doku on the right wing in the final third, just outside the area. Pulls it back towards Bernardo Silva, who kicks it towards goal. And it goes behind for a goal kick, quite high in the end there by Bernardo Silva, who's got the 1 goal against West Ham in his career, and that came here, away from home last season, when Manchester City won 3-1. Bernardo Silva scoring the second Manchester City goal to put them 2-1 up in the 76th minute. Just under 12 minutes in, still West Ham 0, Manchester City 1. David, good job, mate. Thank you very much. Hope everyone is enjoying who is here. If you could like, subscribe, that'd be fantastic. As Edison hurries a clearance away, and it's a West Ham throw-in on the far side. Midway side, the Manchester City half. As Emerson throws it back to the halfway line to Kilman, who beat Manchester City last season whilst he was at Wolves. It's given away this time by Mavropanos. Haaland forward to De Bruyne. Grealish is away on the left. He can find him. Grealish with his right foot just puts it wide of the near post via a deflection. And hopefully a man who can start growing in confidence again, Jack Grealish, called up to the England squad after missing the Euros. But West Ham giving the ball away. De Bruyne was the one charging towards goal. Played it to his left to Grealish, whose shot was deflected. But this time it was Mavropanos who gave the ball away. And, you know, a lot of the time you don't need to give Manchester City chances because they'll, you know, find their own ways through. As De Bruyne 1-2 with Grealish from the corner. And Areola superbly tips that over the crossbar. De Bruyne went short to Grealish, who laid it back off to De Bruyne on the angle. And Areola was well out of his goal, expecting the cross, but instead De Bruyne whipped it to that near post with a shot. And it's so well saved by Areola at that near post, making sure he got enough on it to lift that one over the crossbar. Almost absolutely sublime that by De Bruyne. He goes short again to Grealish, who takes on Bowen and crosses left-footed. It's a header away though for West Ham by Mavropanos. Drops to De Bruyne, who volleys it back to the halfway line to Lewis. He'll go back once more to Edison. He's been closed down by Mohamed Kudus. And Edison out to the left now to De Bruyne. And then back to Edison as he was facing his own goal there, the Belgian. And Manchester City could have been, and probably should have been, 2-0 up there from those flurry of opportunities they just had. But it remains 1-0 to Manchester City. Erling Haaland scoring the first. It's now 5-5 for him against West Ham. He's got a fantastic record against the Hammers. It's his 95th Manchester City goal. Obviously coming into his 3rd season now with the club, Erling Haaland. And it's also now 261 senior goals for him. 230 at club level, and he's also got 31 for Norway. Just an unbelievable goal scorer. As Edison's ball lifted out to the left-hand side, goes over Grealish. Throwing for West Ham inside their own half with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who starts his career coming through at Crystal Palace. He signed a 7-year contract here at West Ham, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. As Kovacic heads away the throw-in. Headed won by Alvarez on the halfway line for West Ham. It's now controlled by Paqueta. Wan-Bissaka going backwards and giving it away to De Bruyne. It's now Kovacic to the halfway line to Doku. A few finds the right back of Rico Lewis. Again, West Ham giving the ball away. You know, it's not exactly like Manchester City winning it back, say, with their press. It's just West Ham with sloppy passes so far. And it's now with Doku, midway side the West Ham half on the far side. Got Kudus coming towards him, so he'll go back to Manuel Akanji, who's making his 100th appearance for Manchester City tonight. It's now with Kovacic working it to the left with his Croatian teammate Gvardiol. On once more to Grealish, one-on-one with Bowen. He's back into Gvardiol on the edge of the area. Plays it to Lewis, then back to Kovacic. Everyone behind the ball for West Ham, sat so deep, trying to stop any gaps from being exploited in their defence here. Doku. Nice ball inside to Bernardo Silva, who was offside. It's a good high line, that, from West Ham. And a bit of free kick for the Hammers, just being caught in an offside position there. Bernardo Silva, who scored in the Euros in the summer against Turkey. And there is Noel Gallagher in attendance tonight at the London Stadium. Of course, plenty of people would have been after Oasis tickets today, including myself, who was unsuccessful. As in the left-back position, it is a West Ham throw-in hit. Will be taken by their number 33 of Emerson. Coming up towards 100 Premier League appearances, Emerson. This is appearance number 94 for him. Of course, has played in the Premier League, not just for West Ham, but for Chelsea as well. As City have it back, Akanji caught, so was Grealish. So it'll be Grealish who wins the free kick, because Michael Oliver played the advantage from the Akanji kick. So Manchester City already got the ball rolling. It seems like both Akanji and Jack Grealish will be okay, despite little kicks there. Kovacic out to the right to Lewis, working it back to Akanji on halfway. Now Diaz out to the right to Akanji. West Ham pressing well, forcing Manchester City back. Paqueta with the tackle, but it's seen as a foul by the referee. And he takes down Kovacic. Doku on the right wing in the final third, running at Emerson, entering the box, pulling it back. De Bruyne with the shot off the post, with Grealish, who will have a shot of his own that goes over the bar, aiming for the top right corner. But De Bruyne was the closest, hitting the woodwork. Doku running at Emerson, pulling it back, and then De Bruyne left alone as he entered the box. Tried to bend it to that top right corner, came off the post. Grealish had an attempt as well, which went over the bar from Manchester City's number 10. Hasn't scored in the Premier League since December. That's where he scored all of his Premier League goals last season. All of them came in December against Spurs, Luton and Crystal Palace. But for Pep Guardiola, the frustration will be it should be more than one, as Bernardo Silva plays it in behind again for Haaland, but this time Areola's quick off his line to get the ball ahead of the Norwegian striker. And West Ham now have it with their right back Wan-Bissaka. Into the midfield to Kudus, round the corner, brilliant ball, and it beats the Manchester City press. Paqueta into the space for Bowen, who can run at Gvardiol into the final third, and into the area, on the outside of him, he puts it across, and it comes off Ruben Diaz, and West Ham have an equaliser. Very unfortunate for Manchester City, but West Ham will certainly take it. Ruben Diaz, the one who converts it into his own goal. I think Guardiola will be more frustrated with how West Ham beat the Manchester City press. Just going right through the midfield, and it opened up really quickly for West Ham. That ball around the corner from Kudus completely took Kovacic out of the game, who couldn't get back in time before Paqueta played his pass through for Bowen. And then Gvardiol allowed Bowen onto his right foot, playing it across. I don't think it was really going to aim at anyone in the West Ham shirt. If anyone was going to get close to it, it may have been Antonio at the far post. But Diaz just doing what defenders usually do, putting his body on the line, trying to block the cross away from goal. Unfortunately for Diaz, he's put it towards his own goal, and it hits the back of the net. And it's West Ham 1, Manchester City 1. Fortunate circumstances for the Hammers, but they will take it for sure. It's West Ham 1, Manchester City 1. Own goal from Ruben Diaz. Can't exactly blame Manchester City's number 3. Just trying to do his best to block the cross. But Kovacic with a poor press there, being caught out with a brilliant ball in fairness by Mohamed Kudus, who seems to always cause Manchester City problems whenever he plays them, scoring against them at the Etihad on the final day last season. So 1-1 hit. Akanji big switch out to the left into Grealish towards the corner flag, who controls it. He's got Bowen on his back here. Grealish plays it to Gvardiol, who joins him in the attack. Keeps it in here, Josko Gvardiol. surrounded by 2 West Ham shirts. Last touch off Bowen. And a throw in the final third here for Manchester City on their left-hand side. And he'll be taken by Gvardiol, who was used at left-back and centre-back in the summer for Croatia at the Euros, who never really got going in their group of death when they had to face the likes of Spain and Italy. As he throws it towards Haaland in the area, takes it out of the box and keeps it alive for Manchester City, lays it off for Gvardiol. Goes back once more here to Diaz. And it's now with Manuel Akanji. Putting it back out to the left to Gvardiol. He's got Grealish, who's got a bit of time here. And he plays it towards Bernardo Silva. Touches it to De Bruyne, who kicks it towards goal. No conviction on it from the Belgian. And that'll be into Areola's grasp for West Ham. Just over 21 minutes in here. It's West Ham 1, Manchester City 1. As Areola has it with his feet. Playing it to his right to Mavropanos. Down the line to Wan-Bissaka. Inside to Edson Alvarez, who just about keeps away from Grealish after a heavy touch. He's down the halfway line with Bowen. Into the middle for Antonio. Can't find Paqueta behind him because Doku was on his toes. But then Doku gives it away to Paqueta. He tries to go in behind for Antonio. It's Diaz with a lunging tackle. Kick it away from the Jamaican. And now Rico Lewis needs to deal with it at the right back. And he does that, clearing it down the line. But straight to Emerson. The West Ham fans are up for this now. Edge of the area. Antonio tries to flay it back into Emerson. And he almost got there. Taken off him by Diaz. Clearance only as far as Rodriguez. And West Ham have it back on the halfway line with Guido Rodriguez, their free signing from Betis. Has a World Cup and a Copa America to his name, Guido Rodriguez. Involved in both Argentina squads, where they have won the big trophies. And then West Ham give it away, trying to play it down the right-hand side there. Ederson out of his goal. Towards the edge of the 18-yard box and collecting. And City can build from the back here. It's now 11 wins in a row for Manchester City in the Premier League, including last season's games as well. 25 unbeaten as well in competitive football matches, which is an unbelievable record as Kovacic sees De Bruyne through on the left again. And he'll control it down. Bowen's there to tackle. And it'll be kept in by De Bruyne right next to the corner flag. It goes back to Gvardiol, well kept there by Kevin De Bruyne. Good working back though as well by Bowen. Diaz to Kovacic, being pressed by Antonio, but works it onto his left 5 yards to Gvardiol. Furthest left De Bruyne, everything to his right. Plays it into the middle, can't quite find Bernardo Silva or Grealish. And it can be cleared by Mavropanos. Controlled by Kovacic, by Gvardiol, and then played back by Kovacic to Diaz, and it's straight back in Manchester City possession with Rico Lewis, the number 82. Lays it off here for Doku. 1-on-1 with Emerson. Goes back here to Akanji. Back out wide to Doku. He's got Kudus now. Forcing him to go back to Akanji. Then across into the middle of the park here to Diaz. Just simple 5-yard passes mainly for Manchester City to try and unlock this defence once again. Akanji playing it across to Grealish, who's took up a more central area, and De Bruyne has gone out wide left and he finds him. De Bruyne lifting the ball to the far post towards Haaland. It's headed behind by Kilman, taking no chances. And it's a Manchester City corner on the far side as once again they get back into their rhythm after conceding that rather unfortunate own goal from the Bowen cross put in by Ruben Diaz. So 25 minutes in, still 1-1 here at the London Stadium. It's going to be De Bruyne with an outswinging right-footed ball. The cross goes in towards the penalty spot. Free header for Gvardiol, but can't quite generate the power. An easy catch in the end for Areola. And he'll kick it out of his hands here towards the West Ham left. Looking for Bowen. Played forward though by Kovacic, well defended. It's now on the halfway line with Akanji. Starts again, going back here to Diaz. And it'll be Josko Gvardiol to now bring it forward for City. Playing a ball out to the left to Grealish. Lifted it back into Gvardiol. Plenty of time on the ball here for the former RB Leipzig defender. Spent 2 years at the German club, winning 2 German Cups in his time there. Kanji being closed down by Paqueta. Goes to his left to Gvardiol. It's now Grealish in the final third. Going back to Gavardio, lifting it back into Grealish. Tries to flick it towards Haaland. It's deflected to Bernardo Silva, who crosses to the far post. Cleared away by Bowen. Not a very convincing clearance. Drops only as far as Akanji, who's about 35 yards out from goal. Out to the right for Doku, everything to his left. Fakes the first cross and then plays a pass back to Akanji. Touch forward for De Bruyne. Looks for Lewis. Comes off Rodriguez. Drops though for Kovacic, so Manchester City can try again. You know, it's good for West Ham that they didn't let this game slide away from them too early on. Got themselves an equaliser. As De Bruyne 1-2 with Doku down the right-hand side. A sliding challenge from Emerson. Cuts out that 1-2. Will be a Manchester City throw-in, but Emerson has avoided Doku getting in behind the defence. Taking quickly, and it's Akanji now on the ball. Finds Kovacic. Back out wide to De Bruyne. Akanji. Midway side the West Ham half. Down line for Doku. Giving time. And he takes on Bowen as he got close to him and he tries to pull it back towards Lewis. Again, a bit of a rushed clearance by Alvarez and he sends it out for a corner there, the Mexican. Doku showing how much of a nightmare he can be with those supersonic feet of his. So with De Bruyne up to just clip this towards the far post, and it's towards Akanji, headed one by Antonio, and it is controlled off the arm of Bernardo Silva. So free kick for West Ham just inside their own 18-yard box. Would have been a hard cross there for Akanji to head home because he would have had to have generated a lot of the power himself there as De Bruyne just floated a ball towards the far post. So West Ham have a free kick, which they will definitely take for sure. And Areola will send it up in the sky, down the West Ham right-hand side. It's controlled by Paqueta, a bit of a loose touch though, given to Grealish, who can't get the return ball from Gavardio. It's now back with West Ham in their own half. Paqueta's ball goes to Areola, who comes out of his 18-yard area and sends the ball long in behind, looking for Bowen. It'll bounce towards the Englishman, and he'll control it here. Jared Bowen with it. Waiting for some runners in behind. He tries to backheel it beyond Gavardio to find Wan-Bissaka, but it comes off Gavardio. And it's a West Ham throw-in taken quickly and thrown back to Paqueta, who sends it back to the halfway line to Mavropanos, the Greek centre-half, who spent 4 years at Arsenal. The Athens-born centre-half. It's now with Wan-Bissaka. Kicks it off Gavardio. Throw-in again for West Ham, midway side the Manchester City half. Throws it back to the halfway line to their number 10 of Paqueta, who scored on the opening weekend against Aston Villa here at home from the penalty spot. Started both league games before today. Paqueta came off the bench in the League Cup win against Bournemouth in the week, as they've given it away, and it's now Bernardo Silva in the centre circle, finding Kovacic, now forward and out to the right to Doku. Goes back to the West Ham goal, so just returns it to Rico Lewis. He's making his first ever start in his career against West Ham. The 19-year-old turns 20 in the middle of November. There's Grealish taking it forward into the box. Onto his right foot, playing a pass to Bernardo Silva, laying up for Kovacic, on once more to Lewis, and then to the right to Haaland, who will shoot with the left foot, and that is an absolute rocket from Erling Haaland. I don't think he's ever stopped scoring in his career, but this is a serious purple patch to start the new campaign for Manchester City. It's 6 in 3 so far this season in the Premier League for Erling Haaland. And the speed, the supersonic speed in which that went in, was absolutely frightening. Manchester City with some beautiful, intricate passing just inside the 18-yard box. Just kept it away from the West Ham defenders who were trying to get a foot in, but the play was too quick for them. And for Erling Haaland, it was one touch out of his feet with the right foot and then wrapping his left boot around the ball, sending it towards the top right corner. Just simply too quick for Alphonse Areola in the West Ham United goal, who concedes his 100th goal for West Ham in his career. And City lead again, and they're through again in the box. Doku on the right-hand side, trying to lift the cross up towards Haaland, caught by Areola. Manchester City regain the lead. It's that man again, Erling Haaland, who now has 6 in 5 against West Ham. But Antonio on the left wing, just inside the area, crossing it towards the far post, where it's Gvardiol to head back to Ederson. Really calm, composed defending from Gvardiol. And Manchester City survive. Just over half an hour in now. West Ham 1, Manchester City 2. Haaland scoring again. It's goal number 96 for Manchester City. Getting close to that century mark already. The 6'4" giant. Now also averaging a goal a game in the Premier League. It's 69 goals in 69 games in the English top flight. And that one was some real quality. Doku coming inside from the right wing and then playing it through for Haaland in the box. Surrounded by West Ham shirts to go out to the right wing to Bernardo Silva. Into a more central area for Doku. Plays it to the left here to De Bruyne. Back into Doku. Finds Kovacic. Bit of a bouncing ball, but he can get it settled again and finds De Bruyne. Gvardiol on the near side. 1-2 with De Bruyne. It's the Belgian. Looking for Gvardiol. Finds him in the area. Cuts it back for Lewis, who flicks it for Grealish just away from the 18-yard area. But it's still in Manchester City possession. De Bruyne, with his left foot, puts it across. It's blocked away by Mavropanos. But the attack will be kept alive here by Jack Grealish. He goes into the midfield to Kovacic. Won his first Premier League title last season in his first season here at Manchester City. It's Bernardo Silva on the right wing, running at Emerson. Just lifting it over Kudus to find a Kanji behind him. There's now Ruben Diaz, everyone behind the ball for West Ham. As Diaz lifts it to the left-hand side here to De Bruyne. Controls it magnificently. De Bruyne back into Gvardiol. Touches it away from the press of Bowen. Gvardiol, bit of time on the ball. Back down the line for De Bruyne. It's Grealish. Finds De Bruyne again. It's still everything to his right for Kevin De Bruyne. Just goes to Ruben Diaz, who's allowed to bring it forward from the back. De Bruyne trying to find Gvardiol. Caught on his toes there by Rodriguez. Now with Bowen in the right-back position. Finds the right-back of Wan-Bissaka, who clears it away first time. Up in the sky, where it's a header away by Diaz. Free header though for Rodriguez, who finds Paqueta. And now Rodriguez plays the pass off Bernardo Silva. And just beyond the halfway line on this near side for West Ham, they have a throw-in. As they trail again against Manchester City. And for West Ham, after the international break, they go to Fulham away. And then they play at home to Chelsea, then away to Brentford. Manchester City also have Brentford, but that's their first game back from the international break at the Etihad Stadium. And then they've also got Arsenal the week after at home. And in between that, they do have a Champions League fixture of Inter Milan. Diaz heads it away, but only as far as Paqueta on this right wing. Bring it forward for the Hammers. Finds Bowen. It's on the edge of the area, running towards goal. Pokes it through towards Kudus, but it's Ederson on the edge of the 6-yard box to collect that ball into his grasp. Reading the situation well there, Ederson. And it's Manchester City's ball. Scored in very quick succession last week, Manchester City. Their opening 3 goals against Ipswich came within 193 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous. Haaland scoring 2 of them and De Bruyne scoring the other. It's Ederson in the 18-yard box. No pressure on the Brazilian. Plays it to the edge of the area here to Bernardo Silva. He's got a contract here for another 2 years. Looks like he's linked with a move away every summer, Bernardo Silva, but somehow Manchester City make him stay. Kovacic bringing it out to the left to find De Bruyne. On once more to Grealish. Got Wan-Bissaka getting close to him. Grealish will put it onto his right foot and play it to the edge of the area to De Bruyne. Returns it towards Grealish and it's Wan-Bissaka to slide in. And he kicks it away, but as he kicks it away, he catches his teammate of Mavropanos, who's also trying to help him out defensively. He's back to his feet, Mavropanos, and West Ham concede a corner. I'm sure Mavropanos will be able to soldier on here. So can De Bruyne work his magic again? Short to Doku, returns it to De Bruyne. Now the edge of the area to Grealish. Through for Doku. Onto his right foot, crosses in. It's a header away by Mavropanos. It will drop out for West Ham on the left-hand side here to Antonio, who will bring the ball forward here. Kovacic is going across to try and stop him, but he can't. Antonio's still going. Haaland's the one now back at right back to then take it away from Antonio and concede the throw-in. Really good defensive work right there by Erling Haaland to stop Mikel Antonio getting any closer to the Manchester City goal. And West Ham start on the halfway line here with Edson Alvarez, who was out for the opening game against Aston Villa and then came on as a late sub last week against Crystal Palace. As it's the number 10, Paqueta on the ball. That's an £85 million release clause in his contract. And Manchester City were close to paying that until the betting scandal came out against Paqueta and they backed off their interest. So Kudus can't quite keep it away from Kovacic, and now Haaland has it in the centre circle. Not many options in front of him, so just has to go back here to Bernardo Silva. And Manchester City just relax with possession here. Very little going forward for Bernardo Silva. And it's with Rico Lewis. Well over 50 appearances now for Manchester City at senior level. He's come on leaps and bounds the last couple of seasons, Rico Lewis. Joining the academy at the age of 8. It's Grealish on the left wing. Finding Bernardo Silva. And then back into Gvardiol. Kovacic going to try the right-hand side now here with Akanji. Playing a nice straight pass out to Doku on the right-hand side. It's out to Bernardo Silva, then back to Akanji. Very patient play here from Manchester City. Bernardo Silva to Haaland. Brilliant pass for Rico Lewis, who strikes. And wide it goes. The close-knit passing from Manchester City to link these moves together is seriously mesmerising so far. Bernardo Silva with the ball, wrapped it into Haaland, whose first-time pass found Lewis in the area. And as he got himself away from Kilman, just couldn't quite get the shot on target. It's a bit wild there by Rico Lewis, who does have the 3 goals for Manchester City, scoring twice last season in the Premier League, home and away against Crystal Palace. But that time didn't quite find the back of the net. And it remains West Ham 1, Manchester City 2, just about to hit the 38th minute here at the London Stadium. As it is Manchester City on the ball. Their biggest win last season for Manchester City was a 6-1 home win against Bournemouth back at the start of November. And I thought what was really interesting was in the first 9 games of Manchester City's Champions League campaign last season, they scored exactly 3 goals in every single one of those opening 3. They either won 3-1 or 3-0, 3-2, but they'd always score 3 goals, no more, no less, until obviously they were knocked out by Real Madrid. But scored 3 at the Bernabeu, but then it was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it, at the Etihad, and then Real Madrid went on to win on penalties. It's West Ham now on the ball, with a throw-in in their right-back area. And he'll be left here for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, former England under-21 international. Now at the age of 26, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who will launch this throw-in. He's taking his time with it. Launches it beyond the halfway line. Headed forward by Diaz. Then Grealish plays it back. It's a lifted ball. It's a bouncing one back to Ederson. Akanji pulled down by Bowen. Referee doesn't give anything so far. Ederson plays it to the right back, Lewis. Forward to Doku, shielding it well. And then playing it all the way back to Ederson. Just allowing Manchester City to restart. But most importantly, keep the possession of the football. And they will build from the back here. It's just the 1 loss in 18 for Pep Guardiola against West Ham. And that was in the League Cup here back in 2021, lost on penalties. Gvardiol, just beyond the halfway line to Bernardo Silva, laying it off for De Bruyne. Doku's free onto the right-hand side and he'll find him. Doku into the box, running at Emerson onto his left foot, trying to shoot, overran it. And the shot is blocked. And it will be a Manchester City corner on the far side with 5 to play of the first half. Just slightly overhit his first touch there, Jeremy Doku. He did end up getting the left-footed shot away, but it took a deflection. Not scored yet this season, Jeremy Doku, despite starting the first 3 games, including that Community Shield. Scored here last season for Manchester City, Jeremy Doku, and assisted in that home win on the final day. It's going to be an outswinger from De Bruyne. From that far side, 2 arms in the air. Delivers it in. Diaz with the header to the far post where Bernardo Silva heads it towards goal. Has to be cleared by Paqueta. Where it comes off the top of the head of Kudus. But Grealish will slide and then kick it back to Lewis on halfway. So Manchester City can keep an attack alive here. If someone was following in that Bernardo Silva header, they could have had a quite easy tap in there for Manchester City, but no one really committed to go forward. It's now Manchester City on the halfway line with Manuel Akanji with it. Unpressed at the moment and brings it forward, and he's allowed to bring it forward and play it out to the right to Doku. He's got De Bruyne to his left, and he'll take on Emerson. Doku chopping back and playing it back to Rico Lewis. It's now Ruben Diaz. Midway inside the West Ham half, just drifting out towards the right-hand side and playing a pass to Doku, who's got space to run into in front of him. Into the box he goes. Lifts a cross in towards the edge of the area to Gvardiol, who tries to volley. Deflects towards Kovacic instead. Loses out to Bowen, and Rodriguez takes over. Santonio at left back for West Ham. Turning and clearing it left-footed. Nicks off Kevin De Bruyne, and that will be a West Ham throw-in. Here's Haaland with 2 at the moment, putting Manchester City ahead. In between his 2 goals, West Ham did get an equaliser. That was an own goal from Ruben Diaz. A cross from Bowen was attempted to be stopped by Diaz, but unfortunately came off his knee and into his own net. So it's actually Manchester City, I think, who got the throw in there. I don't think it took a deflection off De Bruyne. It's now Diaz on halfway. Forward to De Bruyne, then out to the right to Akanji. As for West Ham, they had a decent home record last season. They only lost 4 times here in the league, which I don't think is bad at all, as Kovacic slips it through for Doku. Heavy touch into the box. Pulls it back. It deflects off the head of Emerson. And it'll be Alvarez to beat Lewis to it on the far side. Alvarez plays the pass into Antonio on the edge of the area. Touches and grates as De Bruyne slides in. And he'll be booked it. Kevin De Bruyne just didn't quite time it right. Antonio falling to the ground. Booked by Michael Oliver. De Bruyne, of course, doesn't agree. His touch wasn't great though there, Antonio. Allowed Kevin De Bruyne to make the call to slide in. I don't think he got the ball in fairness. It was just slightly late. But it's because of Antonio is the reason why he decided to slide in, because of his poor touch. But gets a free kick for his team there, Antonio, and gets Kevin De Bruyne in the book as well. As I was saying, West Ham's home form, they only lost 4 last season, of course, to Manchester City, home and away. But they also lost to Fulham at home, Arsenal and Everton. So they're even losing at home to teams where really you'd expect them to not lose. So definitely need to keep that going this season, even though it looks like they could be losing their opening 2 games of the season as City had the ball back and were attacking. Haaland's been caught on the edge of the area by Alvarez, and it'll be a Manchester City free kick. Bernardo Silva finding Haaland on the edge of the area, had to work himself away from the box because Alvarez was getting close, and he was caught by the Mexican. And around 22 yards out here, just to the right-hand side, it'll be a Manchester City free kick. And this will definitely be of the liking to of Kevin De Bruyne. Less than a minute of the first half to go. And Manchester City will love a goal here to go 2 up before the break. Stretch their lead. It's going to be Kevin De Bruyne. Bernardo Silva is there as a left-footed option, but it will be De Bruyne to get it over the wall and just about on top of the roof of the net. Nearly got it over the wall and under the crossbar. Not far away at all by De Bruyne, skimming the roof of the net. As Kevin De Bruyne looks for goals in back-to-back games. Scored last week against Ipswich, also hit the bar as well against Ipswich. It was almost an absolute wonder strike from De Bruyne. Got rather unlucky, it must be said, as we've hit the 45th minute here at the London Stadium. We're going to get 2 added on, indicated by the 4th official of James Bell as a high goal kick from West Ham is won by Diaz. Bounces out of play for a free kick, for a throw-in from West Ham, taken by Wan-Bissaka. Alvarez turns De Bruyne really well and goes to the switch out to the left-hand side. It's a beautiful sweeping pass to Kudus, who will run at Rico Lewis. Kudus into the area on his left foot. He's allowed to shoot, and it's just wide of the far post. Not far away there by Mohamed Kudus, who's waiting for his first goal of the season. Chested it in front of him and ran at Rico Lewis, who allowed the Ghanaian to get onto his left foot, and he had the shot through the legs of Rico Lewis, but just a few yards wide of that far post in the end. Would have probably wanted to do a bit better than that, Mohamed Kudus. Usually a little bit more accurate than that. Long kick this time from Ederson. Flicked on by the head of Haaland. Hooked away by Emerson away from Doku. And Paqueta will control it, but taken off him by Haaland. It's now in the middle of the park with Kovacic. 40 seconds to play here at the London Stadium. Kovacic overhits the touch, and the pass is poor towards no one in the City shirt. And Mavropanos will drive through with it now. Going forward to Kudus in the centre circle. Forced to go back momentarily, but then turns forward instead once he got away from Bernardo Silva. And plays out to the right to Bowen. Onto his left foot, playing a ball into the area, header away by Diaz, volley by Bernardo Silva. Grealish will chase it, Bowen plays it back to Mavropanos, who will drive forward. It's a brilliant run by Mavropanos, and the pass is cut out by Kovacic, deflects through to the back line there for Rodriguez, as we've played the 2 minutes added on, and the referee, Michael Oliver, will blow for half-time, as after the first half here at the London Stadium, it's Manchester City who lead, and of course the 2 goals have come from no other than Erling Haaland. He started the scoring in the 10th minute of the game. A giveaway from Emerson, putting Paqueta in a bad position, meant that Bernardo Silva could slot the ball through for Haaland, who opened up his body and slotted it into the bottom left corner to give Manchester City a lead. But it was actually West Ham who were able to equalise just under 10 minutes later. Jarrod Bowen running at Gvardiol, going onto his right foot and crossing the ball into the 6-yard area. And Diaz threw himself at it, but could only deflect it beyond Ederson into the back of his own net. But City were quick to reply. 10 minutes later, Erling Haaland scored his second. Some intricate passing from Manchester City on the edge of the area, and the final ball from Lewis, just shifting it to his right to Haaland, was perfect. Allowed him to take one touch out of his feet, and he absolutely rocketed it into the top right corner. It's a trademark Erling Haaland goal, hitting it with all the power he could generate. And from there, it has been Manchester City who have been absolutely dominant in this game. 70% of the possession, 17 shots, 5 on target. It's been vintage Manchester City. And at half-time here at the London Stadium, it's West Ham 1, Manchester City 2. So Manchester City do lead at the moment here by 2-1. And they've been utterly brilliant so far at the London Stadium. You cannot fault this Manchester City performance so far. Just their first change they've made in their lineup since the start of the Premier League season. Savinho out of the matchday squad due to injury, so Grealish has had to come in, but Grealish has been really good on that left wing as well, just keeping things simple and finding some nice passes into the box. So clearly Pep Guardiola likes the Manchester City side he's rolling with at the moment, and he will continue to roll with it, and it's probably till after the international break, unless there's no injuries. Of course, he'll be, in his mind, he'll be wanting to give players minutes, who haven't maybe played as much at the start of this season. The likes of, Matheus Nunes, Rodri, who's returned to the bench today, but he's not played since the Euros final where he got injured and came off at half-time. Gundogan as well, he's not played much at the start of this season, came off the bench against Ipswich, McAtee as well. So there's definitely players that Manchester City will need to get minutes to after the international break, but when your team's doing so well, you're not really wanting to change too much. So it'll be interesting to see, how they all fit in the end. Of course, Manchester City have so many games to play that they'll have to rotate eventually. 8 Champions League games now they've got to play in that league phase, where Manchester City have got, I think, an okay set of fixtures. Of course, there's some challenging ones in there, but they've got Inter Milan at home, and then Bratislava away, Sparta Prague at home, Sporting Lisbon away, Feyenoord at home, Juventus away, and then PSG away with Club Brugge at home. So definitely, of course, a couple of difficult fixtures, but I don't think Manchester City will be too phased by those 8 games that they have been given in the Champions League. But in the Premier League, they're off to a flying start. 2 wins out of 2 at the moment, looking like they're probably going to make it 3 out of 3. They definitely should have scored more than just the 2 goals. Rico Lewis has had a chance. De Bruyne has hit the post as well. Haaland had a header free on the 6-yard line where he should have done a lot better. He skied that one over the bar. So I think West Ham should and probably will feel quite fortunate that it is only 2-1. And I think West Ham also got to remember they've barely threatened the Manchester City goal. Their goal came from a cross which came off Ruben Diaz and into their own goal. It wasn't exactly a brilliant cross from Bowen because no one was actually there in the 6-yard box. That's probably poor from Diaz to not realise that. And if Diaz had maybe had a look, he probably would have realised that he didn't need to just dive at the ball and have to deflect it home. But it is Manchester City who lead at the moment. And I think it'll take a real West Ham comeback to try and get something from this game. Needs to have some really strong words with them there. Julian Lopetegui, the new West Ham manager, who I didn't know was a goalkeeper in his playing days. Julian Lopetegui, who his last job in England was with Wolves, lasted less than a year, from November 2022, and then walked just before the start of last season. His biggest defeat was away against Brighton 6-0. So, of course, for Lopetegui, he probably feels there's unfinished business in this league because he didn't really have enough time to do probably what he would have wanted to have done at Wolves. I think a main reason he left Wolves was the fact the money given to him to spend wasn't to his liking, wasn't what he was promised, and you can see Wolves struggling with the FFP rules because they've had to sell Kilman to West Ham for £14 million. He also had to get rid of Neto as well to Chelsea. You know, for Gary O'Neill, who's in charge of Wolves, of course, these aren't players he wanted to lose, but it was more forced upon him that he had to lose them for Wolves to, of course, keep within the rules and regulations. But it is half-time, 2-1. And I have to mention this, and if you've not seen it and you don't want to know the results of the other games, then, you know, mute me now, but I have to talk about the Everton game. What happened in the Everton game? Like that, how do you lose that game? So if you don't know, Everton lost today, and they were 2-0 up. They scored in the 50th minute, and they scored in the 57th minute. You know, 2 goals, quick fire, got themselves in front against a good Bournemouth side. And, you know, Everton are struggling at the moment, lost their first 2 games of the season, so, you know, they could do with the confidence. And then Bournemouth went on to score in the 87th minute, they scored in the 92nd minute, and then they won it in the 96th. How does that happen? You know, if you're an Everton fan, you must be absolutely raging beyond belief how you have gone on and lost that game. Quite poor, really, it must be said. But I had to give that game a mention because my head was absolutely scrambled when I saw those scores coming through and I saw that Bournemouth ended up winning the game right at the end. But need improvements from West Ham, who have plenty on the bench to call upon. They've actually got a really strong bench. They've got the likes of Thomas Souček. On the bench, not Souček. Souček on the bench. They've got their new signing of Crysencio Somerville, who they brought in from Leeds for £25 million. He won Championship Player of the Year in the last campaign. They've also got Niklas Füllkrug, who they brought in from Dortmund for £27 million. Seems a little bit excessive for me. I know Füllkrug's had a good couple of years goal-scoring wise. He scored 12 last season in the Bundesliga for Dortmund, but for a 31-year-old to splash £27 million seems a little bit heavy for me, but maybe you could prove me wrong, possibly, this season. But he's not started a game yet this season for West Ham in the Premier League. Played 74 minutes from the beginning against Bournemouth in the League Cup in midweek. I doubt any changes will be made at half-time unless they're forced upon. But West Ham definitely need to sort themselves out here because, they're struggling to deal with Manchester City's possession play. I mean, a lot of teams struggle to deal with Manchester City's possession play, but West Ham are also giving the ball away too easily. I mean, I mentioned it before, but you don't need to give the ball away to this Manchester City team because they create enough chances doing it themselves, and they're good enough at getting the ball themselves as well. Like Manchester City's press, and when they lose the ball, Manchester City's press to get it back is really good. It's one of their probably more underrated features, the way they win the ball back when they do lose it. But at times, West Ham has just been giving them the ball back every time. I'm just thinking, got to make it harder for them. You really do. So I'm sure Lopetegui, the West Ham manager, will have plenty of words to say at half-time. But second half will be underway in a couple of minutes' time here. I think it is also right to mention that West Ham have not beaten Manchester City in the Premier League since September 2015. It's coming up to 10 years since West Ham beat Manchester City in the league, and the last time they beat them in the league at home, it is up to 10 years. Not next month after. The last time they beat City at home in the Premier League was October 2014. So it is a horrid record they've got against the champions. And I mean, if you're going to have a bad record against anyone, you'd probably want it to be Manchester City because, teams like West Ham aren't exactly expected to get much out of these types of games. But it is also a good feeling when you are able to beat, the champions or those teams who are chasing the top 4 spots. And for West Ham, they were able to go on a decent little run last season. It wasn't all doom and gloom. They finished 9th. It was a little bit of a not nothing season in the league, but they were never getting anywhere near the top, 4, 5, 6 spots. They were never touted with relegation. Of course, they were also knocked out of the Europa League as well at the quarter-final stage by Leverkusen. But they had a run of 11 games unbeaten in the Premier League from the middle of November to the start of February, winning 6 and drawing 4 and then losing just the 1, So they lost 1 in 11 from November to February, losing 5-0 away to Fulham in the end. So they were able to get themselves on good little runs, but obviously just not consistent enough, finishing in 9th place in the end. And for West Ham, quite simply, they just conceded too many goals in the Premier League. They conceded 74 in the end. And just to put it into perspective, Manchester City conceded just 34 goals last season in the Premier League. So 40? Yes, a 40 difference of goals conceded, which is absolutely crazy. But of course, that just shows the golfing quality between the two sides. But like I always say, whilst the game has just got 1 goal in it, it can go either way. West Ham can easily, from a set piece, from a Manchester City mistake, they could make this game 2-2, grow in confidence, and they could go on and win it possibly. You just never know. So if West Ham can keep it just 1 goal behind, then at any point in the game, something could appear for them, a chance where they'd have to take it. They have to be clinical. They've already got a little bit lucky with their only goal of the game so far when it was that own goal from Ruben Diaz. But just got to keep it to 1 goal and not gift Manchester City any more goals, because they did gift Manchester City their first goal. Emerson giving it away, looking for Paqueta. And then Bernardo Silva slipping it through for Haaland, and he scored his first of the day. So, Manchester City will look to defend their lead as the second half will get underway in just a minute or so's time. We'll see very shortly if any changes will be made here. I doubt there will be. But if there is, of course, I'll let you all know. And I think as well, what West Ham were struggling with most was the fact that when they were trying to get out and trying to, oh no, that's not a good sign for West Ham. They are going to make a change, but it's their goalkeeper. So it looks like Alphonse Areola, who has conceded his 100th goal tonight, that Erling Haaland second, means that Areola has conceded 100 goals for West Ham in the 3 years he's been here now. He'll have to come off for Lucas Fabianski, the 39-year-old, who does have 90 Premier League clean sheets in his career. He is a good goalkeeper, obviously coming towards his end of his playing career. But I wonder what Areola has done, because he made a wonderful save on De Bruyne earlier on in the first half. I don't think that would be where the injuries come from, I don't think. But that's not a good sign at all for West Ham. So Alphonse Areola, their number one, who came through the PSG academy, he'll be replaced by Lucas Fabianski, whose contract does expire at the end of this season. He's played Manchester City 21 times previously. Fabianski, just the one win, and that was away with Arsenal. That's how long ago it was when he played for them in the 2010-2011 season. So it is a change at half time, but it's the goalkeeper coming off. So it's Areola off for Lucas Fabianski. I don't think we'll have any changes from a Manchester City point of view, but they'll definitely be looking at that change and looking to get him more shots off, because, you know, Lucas Fabianski is now 39 at the end of the day. Did keep a clean sheet, though, in the week, it must be said. He was in net for the game against Bournemouth in the League Cup and kept a clean sheet. So there we go. Alphonse Areola off for Lucas Fabianski. Spent 7 years of the start of his career at Arsenal, then moved on to Swansea and has been at West Ham since 2018. Moved for £7 million from Wales. So, about to get underway here. West Ham will be kicking us off, kicking right to left. Manchester City left to right. They've had one half-time change in goal for West Ham. Looks like Areola must have picked up some kind of injury, and he's been replaced by Fabianski. As West Ham have got the ball here from kick-off, halfway line, near side Emerson, down the line to Kudus. Tries to turn away from Rico Lewis, but Rico Lewis says no. And he gets the tackle in. It eventually drops to Kovacic. Now De Bruyne in the centre circle. Grealish stretching the pitch wide. And he'll receive the ball here. Manchester City's number 10. Running forward, keeping a decent distance away from Wan-Bissaka. Now getting close to him, onto his right foot in the corner of the box. Goes back to De Bruyne. Kovacic keeps it moving to Akanji. It's now Diaz. To Gvardiol. Down the left flank again now to De Bruyne. Finds Kovacic. Always seems to be available. Manchester City's number 8. Of course, took the number 8 off Gundogan when he left last season. But he's been able to keep it since the re-signing of Gundogan. Gundogan's took the number 19. De Bruyne switches it out to the right. It'll bounce and it'll be kept in by Doku, touching it down well with his head. Going back to his own half here to find Akanji. And then back once more to Ederson. And it's Manchester City, who have still got the ball, but they have been forced back into their own half. But I don't think Guardiola will mind. He'd much rather have the ball than not have it. But for Manchester City, they did win their first 6 games in the league last season. And then after winning the first 6, they then went on and lost the next 2. Both away. Arsenal and Wolves. You might remember that's when Rodri missed out due to the red card he picked up against Nottingham Forest. But they've started the season without Rodri and they're starting off winning. And he's on the bench today, returning for Manchester City. Came off injured at half-time in the Euros final. It's Ederson in the 18-yard box. Kovacic plays it across the box to Diaz. That's a risky ball, but it comes off. And Diaz can stretch his legs and bring the ball forward for the Blues. Beyond the halfway line, playing it to his right to De Bruyne. On once more to Doku. Diaz has continued his run. Doku in the box on the right-hand side. Goes on the outside and pulls it back. It's well blocked there by Rodriguez, who takes no liberties there and clears the ball away from Fabianski, who's coming to collect it. But positive move from Manchester City. Brilliant run from Diaz. And then Doku, just again the final product, just not quite being as strong as it could be. As Doku goes back to Bernardo Silva. Tries to find De Bruyne on the edge of the area, but you lose that to Paqueta, who goes in 50-50 with Akanji. Ball loops up into the sky. Comes off Rodriguez, drops to Bernardo Silva. Akanji goes to Bernardo Silva on the Manchester City right, keeping the ball away from the pressure of Guido Rodriguez. It's now Kovacic, De Bruyne 30 yards out, works out to the left to Grealish, 1-on-1 with Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the area. Grealish puts the ball across, comes off the West Ham full-back, and it's out for a Manchester City corner on that far side. Grealish doing what Grealish does best here, just causing constant nightmares for the full-backs. A mix of running at them and also just keeping it simple as well. Manchester City players know when they give the ball to Jack Grealish that more than likely he will be able to keep it or do something quite dangerous with it. De Bruyne, right-footed, in-swinger. It's a bouncing one and comes off the head of Bernardo Silva and sails over the crossbar. It just bounced up in the air, bounced up off the ground into the air. And Bernardo Silva was just able to guide a header towards goal. He was all alone, Bernardo Silva, 10 yards out. I mean, he's not exactly one you usually do mark from corners. He's not exactly much of an aerial threat, but that just bounced off the turf onto his head and unmarked, he almost got it into the back of the net. And if he does score, Bernardo Silva, it will be his 40th Premier League goal of his career. But for him, it sails over the bar, and it's a West Ham goal kick. It'll go long here via Fabianski. Akanji wins the header on Antonio, deflects off Kovacic to De Bruyne, who goes back to Ederson on the edge of the area here. Will beat Bowen to it and just clears it long there. Ederson taking no chances. But the huge kick's a great through ball for Doku, who is forced away from goal by Emerson, but he's got it in the final third here. He'll drive inside here, Doku, in the area, pulls it back for Bernardo Silva, across to his left to Kovacic. Out wide once more to Bernardo Silva. Outside the boot, ball behind Haaland and a volley away by Wan-Bissaka. Controlled though by Diaz. And then Gvardiol has it. Manchester City can look to try and attack again. They'll want that third goal to give themselves a bit of a gap between them and West Ham. As Akanji has it. Bringing it forward about 30 yards from goal. Going across to his left to Kovacic. To the left once more to Gvardiol. It's now Grealish, everything to his right. Touches just a bit away from him, but he keeps it away from Wan-Bissaka. And finds De Bruyne on the edge of the area. Through for Haaland, lays off towards Rico Lewis, bit of a poor pass. It's now with Kudus in the box. He needs to get rid if he can. Surrounded by City shirts, he is able to clear it in the end, but can't find Antonio. Header forward by Akanji, played back by De Bruyne to Diaz, and again, City will come again. Just seems like it's never ending for West Ham here. Once they clear it, it just comes straight back at them. Lewis tripped by Paqueta. That'll be a free kick for Manchester City. Well, won there by Rico Lewis in that England squad for the upcoming international break. So he got the one international cap. That was in November of 2023. He's played every minute so far of the season, and he played a lot in pre-season as well, Rico Lewis. He was very rarely substituted. So he's got plenty of football in his legs in the opening months of the season as De Bruyne crosses the free kick into the 18-yard box. Header away by Rodriguez. Drops to Grealish on the edge of the area. Down the line for Gvardiol, who will put a low ball in. And it's dropped to Paqueta, who could take it away from Haaland. And it's now forward to Kudus. Gets away from Doku and De Bruyne, and there's a break on here. It's 2v1. He plays it to his right to Bowen. Lewis trying to get across. He'll replay it to Kudus. Touch in front of him. Kudus with the shot, and it's off the woodwork. Goes for the shot to the near post. Clatters off the post. And Manchester City survive. That's why they need this third goal. Because West Ham, on the break, have the players to score goals, and they probably should have there. Kudus went to Bowen. Bowen went back to Kudus. And on the angle, on the left side of the box, he's gone for the near post. And it's hit the post for Manchester City. And it keeps it at West Ham 1, Manchester City 2. Bit of a let off there for Guardiola's men, who just became a little bit too comfortable in possession in the West Ham half. And when they lost it, they were broken on. It's Kudus on the left wing, going back into Paqueta, midway side the City half. Everyone behind the ball for City. Forward in between the lines for Alvarez. To the left to Kudus, then back to Paqueta, trying to make things work from deeper distance. Goes across to the right to Mavropanos. Few options in front of him. Goes to the left into a more central area to Alvarez. Then clips it towards Kudus. Headed away by Lewis. As far as the chest of Emerson. Loses out to Lewis, who tackles twice. But Paqueta then picks it up away from Doku. 25 yards out. Alvarez clips it to the far post. Finds Bowen in the area, who controls it. Wants it on his left. Tries to play it inside to Wan-Bissaka. First time doesn't come off. But he gets it back off Grealish. Bowen then crosses off Gvardiol. Back off Bowen. And it'll be a goal kick for Manchester City. But despite defending for pretty much the entirety of the start of this second half, West Ham just have a bit of breathing space in terms of defensive work. And have nearly scored themselves, cannoning it off the post. And as we were saying at half-time, West Ham, if they just keep it to a 1 goal in it, they'll always have a slight chance. As soon as it goes 3-1, then 4-1, then you know you're out of the game. City have it midway inside their own half with Diaz. Going to his right to Akanji, then forward to Lewis. Plenty of space for him to run into. He gets beyond the halfway line. Plays it forward to Doku. Back inside to Bernardo Silva. There's space opening up on the left. But Bernardo Silva will keep it on this right side with Doku. Keeping it away from Paqueta. He's actually tackled by Paqueta, but he drops inside to Lewis. Now into Kovacic. De Bruyne, giving time on the ball. Back to Kovacic and forward to Lewis. Just drifting inside into a more central area here for Manchester City. Then going to the left to Gvardiol. Now Grealish. Keeping it away from Wan-Bissaka. Putting it back into Gvardiol. Just keeping it ticking here, Manchester City. Diaz. Out wide right to Doku. Haaland's in the area, but other than that, there's not much to aim for in there for Doku. So has to go back to Akanji. He's now on the halfway line with Diaz. Brings the ball forward again. Not being closed down. So has plenty of time to pick a pass here. Diaz finds De Bruyne, lifting it into Haaland. Flicks on for Bernardo Silva. Will drop from him in the box. No, it won't. Can be cleared there by Rodriguez. By Kilman, sorry. And Gvardiol loses out to Bowen. And Bowen can take it away down the West Ham right. Waiting for a little bit of support here. Not much being offered. And he goes back into his own half there to find Mavropanos. And with 10 minutes of this second half played, it's still West Ham 1. Manchester City 2. Next commentary on the channel is on Monday night in League 2 as Salford take on MK Dons. Then we've got the international break. But we're back after the international break as Bournemouth host Chelsea. And we'll also be covering Birmingham coming up against Wrexham, 2 of the top teams in League 1. Still West Ham on it, halfway line here, with Edson Alvarez. Wants to try and go forward and plays it out to the right here to Mavropanos. Turns away from De Bruyne, finds Rodriguez. Now Wan-Bissaka down the line, halfway line. Bowen returns it to Wan-Bissaka, gets away from the side challenger Kovacic, and Wan-Bissaka brings it away. There's 2 up there with him. And he'll cross it into the box, looking for Kudus. It's just overhit, not a bad ball. And Kudus will keep it alive on this near side. Running at Lewis. Goes to the edge of the area to Paqueta. Forward for the run of Emerson. Cut out by Bernardo Silva, who will bring it out to a right-back position for Manchester City. Pulled down by Paqueta, nothing given by the referee. Does work its way to Akanji. Returns it to Bernardo Silva. Back into Akanji in the 18-yard box, who clears it first time. Up towards Haaland, who will hold it up. Tries to head it towards Doku. But he loses out in the end. Heads it to Rodriguez instead. Guardiola not happy. He thought Erling Haaland was fouled there. It's Rodriguez, midway inside the City half in the central area. Giving time on his own here. Plays it to his left 5 yards to Paqueta. Rodriguez again. Now Paqueta. Goes back to the halfway line to Kilman. Across to his centre-back partner of Mavropanos. It's now further forward with Wan-Bissaka. Grealish doing his defensive work as Wan-Bissaka tries to go down the line but has to turn backwards instead. And plays the ball back to Alvarez. Well kept there by Wan-Bissaka. Bowen delivers it into the far post for Kudus, who can't quite head it towards goal. Slightly off balance, falling over in the end, but it's not a bad delivery by Bowen. Allowed to cross the ball there. Didn't get close enough to him. Grealish or Gvardiol. but just too much on it there. 3 points for Derby. I'm very happy. I imagine so. It was a 3-0 win, wasn't it, against Bristol? I checked that score before because I saw a stat, something like Derby have 8 straight wins in a row at home, I think. Something like that. And that's what you need, newly promoted to the Championship. If your home form can be good, it just allows you to possibly not do as well away from home because at home you can get some points there. So it is good for Derby. I'm glad they're doing well after the financial troubles they've had in the recent past. It's Paqueta, found on the halfway line by Kilman, and he lifts it out to the right to Bowen, controls it, he's in the box here, tries to square it towards Antonio, just missed, and helped away by Lewis as he knew Kudus was at the far post and was taking no risks. But just this last 5 minutes, West Ham starting to put their own writing in this game. It's not all Manchester City. It's Paqueta. Manchester City standing off the Brazilian, goes across to Kilman. So Mavropanos, all hands on deck here for Manchester City. Wan-Bissaka working it out wide right to Bowen. In the final third, running at Gvardiol, onto that left foot, playing the ball towards Antonio, helps it towards goal, and it's Akanji who gets in there and blocks it and away for a corner. Vital defending by the Swiss international. Needed to be done by Akanji, who got his country knocked out of the Euros, you might remember, missing that penalty in the shootout against England. But he's back on club duty and defending against Mikel Antonio, who's never an easy striker to defend against. Uses his muscle well, uses his size well. And they've got a corner to defend here. It's their first of the game for West Ham. It's going to be an in-swinger from Bowen into the 6-yard box where it's a header into the air by Akanji. Ederson punches away. Drops to Rodriguez, who will strike it from around 25 yards out, dragged wide of the left-hand side of the post. And with half an hour to play, West Ham 1, Manchester City 2. Yes, very good. How did you do today? My team that I talk about, Stockport County, we drew away at Mansfield 1-1, which I'll take. Mansfield came up with us last season from League Two. They're a good side under Nigel Clough. They're a well-organised side, and we went behind as well. So we got a goal back before half-time, and then from what I read, it seems like both teams were a little bit flat in the second half. So I'll take a draw away at Mansfield. It means we're still unbeaten as well. And we've got an international break because we were meant to play Reading next week, but they cancelled the game because they've got players missing on international duty. Top of the league, I think we are still just top. I think we've got a few teams who are also on 10 points, but our goal difference has been pretty good. Scored quite a lot of goals and all conceded 1 so far. So, City build out from the back with Akanji at right centre-half. Finds Doku almost away from Emerson before he was chopped down by the Italian fullback, and he will be booked. Just too quick for him there, Doku. He is absolutely electric. He is electric when he's on the ball and in full flow. You know, sometimes the only thing that Manchester City fans have a bit of a frustration with Doku is that final product sometimes isn't exactly how it needs to be. Sometimes the pullback isn't as accurate or the shot doesn't quite work the goalkeeper, but his raw ability is absolutely frightening. And Manchester City have got themselves one hell of a footballer in Jeremy Doku. Of course, bringing in Savinho as well, who's out at the minute, missing today with injury. Also got Foden, who can play out wide. Grealish, who's had a good game as well. As Grealish is running at Wan-Bissaka, plays it just into the box for De Bruyne. Low ball for Bernardo Silva, surrounded by West Ham shirts, works it back to De Bruyne on the left-hand side of the area, tries to lift it in, comes off, I think, the face of Alvarez, and it can be played out from the back here by West Ham to Kudus. First time right-footed ball into the space here for Bowen. Ederson comes afar and with a diving header, he heads it out of play for a West Ham throw-in, just inside the Manchester City half. Well dealt with there by Ederson. Almost got Manchester City on the counter-attack again there. But not to be this time for the Hammers. Yeah, Birmingham and Wrexham have got +7 goal difference. And Wrexham have +6. I don't know about Birmingham, yeah. Well, Birmingham's team just looks absolutely frightening. The amount of money they're spending. It's Paqueta, brilliant ball into Emerson, who's up a striker position on the edge of the area. Works a bit of space, but lays it off for Bowen, who will try and bend it to the far corner. Comes off Diaz, shouts for handball, not given by Michael Oliver. Manchester City will try and go forward themselves here with Doku down the right-hand side. Not much support with him. Looking to go backwards, but instead tries to go forward. And this time he's took out by Kilman, and that will surely be a booking as well. And it will be. 2 bookings for West Ham in 2 minutes, both drawn in by Jeremy Doku. And his feet were just too quick for both. Wanted to go backwards, but realised there wasn't anyone backwards, so he thought he'd just try and go forward on his own. And Kilman dived in late, caught Doku. And a rightly given booking. And that's another thing that Doku brings. He wins. He doesn't just win fouls, but he wins fouls in manners which usually accumulate to yellow cards, which is always what you want. You want your wingers getting opposition defenders booked, so they're on thin ice for the rest of the game. But 27 to play here of the 90. That's West Ham 1, Manchester City 2. Diaz playing it into Bernardo Silva. Going back to Rico Lewis towards halfway, touch forward and plays it to the left to Kovacic. Sprays it out wide to the far side to Grealish. Brilliant control. You can run at Wan-Bissaka again into the area, onto his right foot. Playing it to Bernardo Silva, who strikes, but it's straight at Fabianski. Right on the penalty spot there. Bernardo Silva slightly frustrated with himself. He has scored this season, Bernardo Silva. Off the bench in the Community Shield final. He did miss his penalty in the shootout, but made it 1-1. And there, he's just slightly behind him from Grealish. So he just had to kind of drag it from under his feet, from under his body. And he couldn't quite generate the power or the accuracy to really trouble Lucas Fabianski. So West Ham can build out from the back in their own half. It's with Guido Rodriguez, their new free signing from Betis. He started out at River Plate, and he's just spent the last 5 seasons playing in Spain, in La Liga, now at the age of 30 years old. There's Mavropanos on halfway, finding Edson Alvarez just next to him to the left-hand side. Picked up 17 yellow cards last season in all competitions. Edson Alvarez, the Mexican, but wasn't sent off, though, which is, not too bad if you get him booked, but not sent off. It's not the end of the world. It's Kilman at left centre-back towards the edge of his 18-yard box. Goes back to Fabianski, who's in the 18-yard box. He plays a left-footed ball. It's a high ball up to the halfway line for Antonio. Nods it down towards Kudus, who's tackled by De Bruyne and gets away from him. And Kudus will bring it forward, and West Ham have got plenty of bodies in attack here. Kudus tries to go to the right, but he telegraphs the pass, made it too obvious, and it was cut out in the end by Gvardiol, who plays it out to the right to Doku. We're still just inside the Manchester City half here. We get into the West Ham half with a pass forward to Bernardo Silva. But just made it too obvious where he was going with that ball, Mohamed Kudus. Looking for Jarrod Bowen, who himself signed a new lengthy contract with West Ham. He's got his contract until 2030 now. Signed that in the October of 2023. Nearly at 50 Premier League goals, Jarrod Bowen. He's on 44 at the moment, so got to assume that he will hit 50 goals this season in the Premier League. 30 million in League One is crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just the fee on its own for that Jay Stansfield was absolutely just mind-blowing. But it's not even the fees, it's the plays they're bringing in. That Lyndon Dykes is a great sign-in. They've also brought in Scott Wright from Rangers, Ben Davis from Rangers as well, who have been playing European football in the last couple of campaigns. As Manchester City are going to make a change soon, and it will be number 19, Ilkay Gundogan, who has returned to the blue side of Manchester. It's 2 substitute appearances for him, but I'm certain he'll get plenty of starts this season. He'll be a key player once again for them. He turns 34 in October. Ilkay Gundogan, who originally spent 7 years here at the club before having a year away at Barcelona, where it just didn't really work for him in terms of the off-the-pitch stuff. Really, I think that's what affected him most in terms of performance and numbers. Gundogan was brilliant as Doku burst beyond Paqueta, crosses it to the far post, just too heavy for Haaland. It will come out to that far side where it'll be kept in by Grealish. He'll run at Wan-Bissaka. Shows him towards the byline, but Grealish tries to get on that right foot, but Wan-Bissaka just says no. And now Bowen in the right-back position plays it down the line, but can't find Wan-Bissaka. Instead, finds Kovacic. And Manchester City can come again. We've just got a quarter of the game to go. City still just lead by the 1, though. There's Bernardo Silva on the left-hand side, finding De Bruyne. Bernardo Silva making a run himself, but De Bruyne will have a shot. And he'll deflect away for a corner. About 25 yards out, De Bruyne deciding to have a pop at goal. Blocked pretty early on when that ball was travelling. As a City change, we'll see. Jeremy Doku come off. So, Jeremy Doku, who's been electrifying tonight. Again, the end product just lacking at times, but the way he dribbles past players is beautiful to watch. And after picking up a few kicks and knocks from the West Ham players trying to tackle him, he'll be replaced here by Ilkay Gundogan. I'm sure Pep Guardiola is delighted with Manchester City's number 11 and his performance. And here he is again. It's his first away appearance back in City colours for Ilkay Gundogan. This is appearance number 306 for him for Manchester City. Appearance 190 in the Premier League as De Bruyne plays it to the edge of the area to Grealish, returns it to De Bruyne, crosses in towards Ruben Diaz, who's at the far post. Can't turn it home from a couple of yards out. Scored an own goal in the first half, Ruben Diaz, but almost got one in the right net this time. De Bruyne with a first-time ball, swinging in towards goal. Diaz stuck a leg towards it, but couldn't direct it on target. And another little layoff there for West Ham. The City are desperately looking for this third goal. As Ilkay Gundogan, of course, retiring from international duty a couple of weeks ago, which will be great for Manchester City, knowing that he won't be playing any extra football. And he did score in the Euros, Ilkay Gundogan, in the group stage against Hungary. But like I say, his numbers last season for Barcelona were absolutely brilliant. Scored 5 times in La Liga, got 14 assists in all competitions in 45 starts. I think it was just the off-the-pitch stuff, and I don't think he quite liked the mentality of the Barcelona players. So he decided to come back here to Manchester City, where he is very much wanted. Alfie May might be the best. Yeah, I know. He just scores. He doesn't stop scoring. I've got him in my EFL fantasy team, so I'm not complaining. He's my captain as well, which I'll also take. There's Bowen on the right side, just in the City half. Kicked by Gundogan, but he can keep going. An advantage played. Bowen into the final third. He's got the overlap of Wan-Bissaka, plays it to him. Right next to the corner flag. Fakes the first cross and then goes back here to Alvarez inside to Paqueta. Puts the ball into the far post towards Kudus, who chests it down in the area. Lewis gets close to him, forces him outside the box. Kudus tries the cross, comes off Lewis. And that'll be a corner kick for West Ham, I assume, with 20 minutes to play here. I think he's dealt with him as well as he could today, Rico Lewis. Because Mohamed Kudus is a nightmare, but not a lot of success has come for West Ham down their left flank. It's more been down their right with Wan-Bissaka and Bowen. As we are going to get a double change here for West Ham. Their left back Emerson will be coming off for right back Vladimir Coufal. So I'm going to have a guess here that Wan-Bissaka will come out to left back and Coufal will play at right back. And the second change, we'll see Antonio come off for their new £27 million man of Niklas Füllkrug, who they have brought in from Dortmund. Scored 15 goals last season in all competitions. Scored in the Champions League group stage against Newcastle. Scored in the quarter-final against Atletico Madrid. And also scored in the semi-final against PSG. As Bowen, outswinger to the 6-yard box. And the header's free for Kilman. But couldn't direct it downwards. And over the bar it goes. And it's West Ham 1, Manchester City 2 here still at the London Stadium. And City are also going to make a change of their own. And it's going to be Jack Grealish to come off, who came off the bench last week against Ipswich. Gets his first start of the season today after an injury late in pre-season. It's just, just slowed down the start of his season, but he'll come off, Jack Grealish, who's had a good game. Very solid, a solid 7 out of 10 performance. And he'll be replaced by Matheus Nunes, who was linked with a move away from Manchester City in the summer. Atletico Madrid were interested, but Pep Guardiola wanted to keep the number 27, and he has stayed. And it looks like he'll just go out to that left wing for now. Matheus Nunes City are the team in possession on the halfway line with Rico Lewis. He's got Akanji and Bernardo Silva to his right. He'll play it to Akanji. Manuel Akanji, who's got 3 wins from 3 when facing West Ham United. As De Bruyne finds Bernardo Silva running forward down the right-hand side here into the final third. Being forced away from goal by Kudus. And he'll go back here into Rico Lewis. And it's now on the halfway line with Ruben Diaz. Akanji to this near side to Bernardo Silva. Midway side the West Ham half goes back to Akanji. Being pressed here by Füllkrug. But he goes inside to his left here to Ruben Diaz. Well dealt with here by Manchester City. I captain Mendes Languish. I captain Adam Phillips, though, from Barnsley. Yeah, it seems like Barnsley had a decent away day. I think it's Crawley, I think Barnsley won. I'm pretty sure it was. As Kovacic, just in front of the centre circle. Bernardo Silva again in loads of space on the right side. It will be worked to him eventually via Akanji. Bernardo Silva playing it back inside to Rico Lewis. Still 2-1 here to City at the London Stadium. About 16 minutes of the 90 to play. Bernardo Silva playing it through for the runner Gundogan, laying it off to De Bruyne. Back through for Gundogan, who's stayed on side. Bernardo Silva goes back to Akanji. You know, this is how City play. It's patient. They don't mind having the ball for as long as they need to have it before making an opportunity. Nunez on the left wing. He can run it so far in the box. He tries to find Gundogan in the area. Cut out though by Rodriguez. Now Bowen trying to get around Gvardiol, but Gvardiol says no. Stops him in his tracks. Really well defended there by Josko Gvardiol. Kovacic. Quick 1-2 with Gundogan. Rico Lewis out wide to Bernardo Silva, who's slightly isolated here on his own on the right wing. Plays it back to Akanji. City just need to be careful of the overlap here. Of the counter-attack. There's Akanji to his right to Bernardo Silva. Then back to Akanji. Forward to Kovacic. His touch gets him away from Rodriguez. Well, he was away from Rodriguez and then he was tripped from behind by the Argentine. And he was booked by Michael Oliver. Really good composed midfield play there by Mateo Kovacic. Because if he was caught in possession there, then, you know, West Ham could have caught Manchester City on the break. So Guido Rodriguez in the book. It's Bernardo Silva. Back into Rico Lewis. Kovacic. Rico Lewis. All of this play just outside the 18-yard box here. As it's only Haaland in the box for City and he's just making his way to the edge of it. Kovacic. Being closed down by Rodriguez, who's just been booked there. And he keeps it moving. De Bruyne. Out wide right to Bernardo Silva. Again isolated with Wan-Bissaka. He plays it through for the runner Lewis, who gets it across goal. Stopped at the near post by Kilman. And Manchester City have a corner. So much possession for Pep Guardiola's side in his 475th game in charge of City in the Premier League. Rico Lewis there trying to become the creator, aiming for Gundogan. Couldn't find him though. So it looks like it'll be taken by De Bruyne. But before that, we're going to get a West Ham change. Number 19, Edson Alvarez will come off for Thomas Souček. Yeah, pretty sure they won 3-0 and he got 2 goals and 15 points. Would have been a lot more. Yeah, I think... How many did Alfie May score? I think he only scored 1 today. But 1's better than none, so it's okay. So it'll be De Bruyne to take the resulting corner. With that right boot to the near post. It's well dealt with, though. It's a bit too easy, really, to be dealt with by Füllkrug. It's now Bowen in the left-back position. Kicking it off De Bruyne and winning a throw-in for the Hammers. So Wan-Bissaka, who's now at left back, throws it to Souček. Paqueta back through for Wan-Bissaka. Inside to Kudus. Touch keeps it away from Kovacic and he sees a switch out to the right. And he will find Sofal. Brings it down beautifully. Attacking down the West Ham right in the final third. Puts the cross into the box at the near post. Headed away by Gvardiol. Drops straight through for Núñez, who holds it up here for Manchester City on the left wing. Gets into the midfield to Gvardiol. Back it goes into a left back area here for Gundogan. Now Ederson plays it to the right now to Bernardo Silva. Still in the defensive third here for Manchester City. They need to be careful as Bernardo Silva has been fouled by Kudus. No, says the referee. He crosses it in. Füllkrug to Souček. It drops for the Czech international, who just drags it wide. Manchester City want the free kick there, but they were never getting it. Kudus just going in strong on Bernardo Silva, who just took too long making up his mind of what he wanted to do. Kudus got a low ball across the box. It fell to Füllkrug, laid it off for Souček. Tried to return it to Füllkrug, but it deflected back to Souček, who in the end just decided to get a shot off at goal. And just went wide of that far post. 2 or 3 yards wide in the end there by Thomas Souček off the bench. Scored 7 goals last season. Souček, 2 of them coming in 2024. Never scored against Manchester City. Thomas Souček. And this is his 10th appearance against them. Gundogan to Rico Lewis, just on that edge of the centre circle in the West Ham half. 11 minutes to go here. Still 2-1 to Manchester City. 2 goals from Erling Haaland has got Manchester City in front at the London Stadium. De Bruyne fed through down the right wing by Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne tries to do too intricate the ball to the near post. Easily caught there by Fabianski, who was aiming for the late run of Gundogan, which we know he can do so well. And Gundogan, the last time he scored for Manchester City was a brace against Manchester United in the FA Cup final 455 days ago now. How he would love to get back on the score sheet in a Manchester City shirt. Paqueta, a long ball forward up to the edge of the area. Füllkrug heads it down towards Wan-Bissaka, and he gets there and he tries to get into the box. Wan-Bissaka, but it's well dealt with by Diaz, clearing it, and it eventually finds De Bruyne, who can't get away from Paqueta, but his kick away falls to Bernardo Silva. Out to the left to Gvardiol, forward first time to Gundogan. He's got Núñez in front of him, the substitute, and from one substitute he'll find the other. Here is Núñez on the left wing. Playing it back to Gundogan. And then back once more to Gvardiol, and City slow it down again with 10 to play. De Bruyne. Gvardiol. Back it goes here to Diaz. It's now Núñez on the left. Now finds Akanji in the centre circle. Plenty of time on the ball here for the former Borussia Dortmund centre half. Goes out to the right here to Bernardo Silva. Again, isolated with Wan-Bissaka. Rico Lewis had made a run inside, but instead Bernardo Silva goes back to Akanji. And Akanji returns it to the Portuguese winger. And then he plays the run through for Lewis. But instead he leaves it for De Bruyne, whose cross comes off Kilman. And it'll be another corner for Manchester City in front of those travelling supporters. Making the 8-hour round trip to London and back tonight. De Bruyne, from that corner, who played short with Bernardo Silva, he goes back towards Rico Lewis. It's now out to the left to Núñez, who's not got many options around him. He keeps it away from Paqueta. Go back to Gvardiol. It's Manchester City not really attacking with much intent until now. Great ball slipped through for Núñez. Pulls it back towards Haaland. It's a good outstretched leg that from Wan-Bissaka. It was needed and it was necessary, because that was almost falling right into the feet of Erling Haaland. With 8 to play, City need to be careful. They're not exactly going for the third goal. And when you're just 1 goal up, you know, you've got to be careful that doesn't come back to bite you. As for Lopetegui, the West Ham manager, this will be 3 losses in 3 games against Manchester City with 3 different teams. Lost with them at Wolves and also lost with them with Sevilla in the Champions League, as a poor clearance goes straight to Bernardo Silva, who controls it into the area, past one, but can't get away from Wan-Bissaka, and into the gloves of the goalkeeper of Fabianski. Areola came off at half-time. Fabianski kicks it long towards Bowen on the right wing. It goes over the head of Gvardiol, who allows it to bounce, tries to head it towards Ederson. That would have been short, but Diaz was there to head it back to Gvardiol. Forward to Gundogan. Núñez takes it away from one West Ham player. Gets away from a second and slips it through for Haaland. The flag stays down for now. Haaland for the hat-trick. Yes, he can get it. The flag has not been raised, and Erling Haaland, yet again, scores another hat-trick. It's now becoming a weekly occurrence for the Norwegian. It's his 11th Manchester City hat-trick. Just his second away from the Etihad. And when he gets slipped through one-on-one, there is only ever one outcome, and that is a goal. Looks like he's timed his run to perfection. Núñez with the pass through to him. And as he was one-on-one with Fabianski, just kept his cool. And he has scored his 70th Premier League goal. It was good defending originally from Diaz to start the move. Gvardiol went forward to Gundogan, who just touched it into Núñez, who got away from the flying challenge there of Mavropanos. And then Núñez got away from Sofal, and I think the run and the pass was timed to absolute perfection. Haaland, just as he entered the box, lifted it beyond Fabianski and towards the bottom right corner. Brilliant pass from Núñez, who looks to be staying at Manchester City. And it's just cheeky. It's absolutely delightful from Erling Haaland. Just that slight little lift over Fabianski. The check in VAR, I think he's onside. It's close. Definitely worth a check, but he is onside, Erling Haaland. He scores his 97th Manchester City goal. Just another hat-trick away from 100. It's back-to-back hat-tricks for him. Scored a hat-trick against Ipswich last week, scoring them again against West Ham. Of course, he's the quickest ever player in the Premier League to score 3 hat-tricks. Got 3 hat-tricks in 8 games in the first season he had in the Premier League. And just as Manchester City just needed that third goal just to really put the game in their control, where they can feel a little bit more secure, Erling Haaland brings that security with a delightful finish. And it is West Ham 1, Manchester City 3 with 5 to play here at the London Stadium, as we're going to get a West Ham change. Captain Jarrod Bowen, who put the cross in for West Ham, which deflected off Diaz for the own goal. He'll be replaced by number 7, Crysencio Somerville. Their summer signing from Leeds United, £25 million altogether. Scored 20 goals last season in the Championship, including one in the playoffs against Norwich in the semi-final. Kudus gets it beyond the City press, but given away by Souček this time. De Bruyne can't quite keep it away from West Ham's Rodriguez. Now West Ham have it back in their own half with Kilman. Paqueta to Wan-Bissaka at left back. Inside to Somerville, gets beyond him, and then Füllkrug dispossessed, and City could counter-attack. Gundogan in the centre circle. He's got Núñez bursting away to his left, but Gundogan slows it down again. Goes out to the right to Bernardo Silva, back to Lewis on halfway. But it's City who are back in control of the ball. Kovacic goes to the left to Gundogan, who takes the number 19. Ilkay Gundogan, who was once the number 8, of course, and he took that number 8 off Samir Nasri. So it's gone from Nasri to Gundogan to Kovacic. We're going to get a double change for Manchester City, as the captain, Kevin De Bruyne, looks like he'll be one of the changes. The first one will be Josko Gvardiol, the number 24, to be replaced by number 6, Nathan Ake, who gets his first Premier League appearance of the season. He's sat the last 2 out on the bench. So Ake coming on. And the second change, we'll see captain Kevin De Bruyne come off for number 2, Kyle Walker, who gets his first minutes of the season in a Manchester City shirt. He was on the bench against Chelsea on the opening weekend. He was then out of the matchday squad against Ipswich, but he's back in again, and he gets the last few minutes here at the London Stadium as Manchester City have the ball from the back with Ruben Diaz. Walker at right back gets the ball deflected off Somerville, and Manchester City will have a throw. And this will be Manchester City's 65th win against West Ham in the head-to-head. This is their 122nd meeting in all competitions in the 100 years they've been playing each other. Kyle Walker goes back to Akanji. It's a lifted ball. He can control it and then return it to Walker, who's been left out of the England squad. First time in a very long time he's not been involved in the England setup. Of course, hasn't played many minutes so far this season, returning from international duty from the summer with the Euros. So that might have a little part to play, possibly, because Rico Lewis has played plenty of minutes for City so far. Walker and hasn't on the other flip side of it. So as we come to the closing stage of this game, Rico Lewis has been played in behind by Bernardo Silva. Rico Lewis in the area, puts it across. It's a punch away from Fabianski as it was aiming towards Nunes at the far post. Got 30 seconds left until we find out added on time from today's referee. But for West Ham, it's been a good window, and they've had challenging first 3 fixtures. Aston Villa are always going to be a struggle. Crystal Palace was a good away win, but then the champions were just a challenge too much for them. And they've sold what they needed to, got rid of a lot of deadwood, I would say, with the likes of Downs and Benrahma and Kjær and Johnson and Ogbonna all departing. For City, they lost just the 6 players. Of course, Alvarez for almost 82 million and Harwood Bellis, Gomez, Doyle as well, loaning out Couto to Dortmund and Phillips to Ipswich. As we're going to get 5 added on here, indicated by the 4th official, as Walker overruns it in the defence of Manchester City, and Paqueta is brought down then in the end by Akanji, who will be booked by the referee, Michael Oliver. And Paqueta will get us going again rapidly, but he's gone too quick, and he gives it straight back to Manchester City. What an absolute waste there by Lucas Paqueta. And Akanji has been booked, but the free kick came to absolutely nothing there. So City just going to see out these final couple of minutes inside their own half. Ederson forward to the edge of the area to Ilkay Gundogan, whose best season in the Premier League. Got 13 in 28 games, you might remember, in the 2020-2021 season. Just an absolute unbelievable player. As Akanji lifts it out to the left. It's Ake, who's alone midway inside the West Ham half. Slows it down, plays it inside to Gundogan. It's now Nunes in front of the centre circle. It's Akanji lifting it out towards Bernardo Silva, who can jump up and keep it in with a header. Going back to Walker into the midfield to Akanji, then back to Diaz, who finds Walker to his right, who will then go back to Ederson. Well kept there by Manchester City. Played 90 seconds of the first of the 5 added on. Kovacic finds Rico Lewis in between the lines in the centre circle, and he then fires it out wide right to Bernardo Silva. Plays it back to Walker, then into Akanji's rush to join the midfield. And plays it out to the right towards Lewis, just away from the number 82. Tried to slide to keep it within City possession, but he couldn't quite do so. It's now Wan-Bissaka driving away from Walker, playing it through for Somerville on the left wing. Walker recovering, Somerville has it though in the final third. Plenty of bodies arriving for West Ham. Plays it to his right to Paqueta. Just no real option on for him, so has to go next to him to Rodriguez. It's now Sofal down the line for Kudus. Running at Ake, and Ake gets the foot in and kicks it away. West Ham throwing in the final third here. Sofal wants to take it quickly, throws it backwards here to Rodriguez. And into the middle to Paqueta. 1-2 with Souček. Paqueta can't quite return it again to the Czech international. It's now Gundogan. Turns away, almost turned away there from Sofal. He was caught by West Ham's number 5, who's very apologetic. Gundogan's fine. And Manchester City have a free kick with 2 to play. And Erling Haaland, most goals after first 3 games. 7. It is the most. The only person who had done better was Edin Dzeko, who got 6 in his first 3 back in the 2011-2012 season, the season that City first ever won the Premier League. Very underrated striker was Edin Dzeko. Zakanji, almost acting like a right winger here midway inside the West Ham half, turns back though and goes into the middle to Kovacic. 90 seconds left to play this game. Kovacic bringing it forward, going out to the left to Nunez, who's had a positive impact off the bench, assisting the 3rd goal for, of course, Erling Haaland for his hat-trick. Nunez again gets the ball back from Ake in the box. Goes back to the edge of the area to Kovacic, who's scored from outside the box already this season. Tries to reverse a ball through for Gundogan, intercepted by Souček. West Ham have it back for the last minute of the game. Wan-Bissaka getting away from Bernardo Silva. And then getting beyond Walker as well. Brilliant run from Wan-Bissaka, who looks to be some coup here for West Ham. Of course, we know the quality he's got whilst he was at Manchester United, as he allows Kudus to take over, drives onto his left foot. Shot blocked, but returns to the Ghanaian. So West Ham can continue this attack where they look for a consolation goal. Wan-Bissaka delivers it in off the head of Füllkrug, controlled by Souček. Back to Füllkrug, deflecting around. Diaz with a header, drops to Gundogan on the edge of the area, who can play it forward to Haaland. Returns it to Gundogan. Gets it away from Sofal. 30 seconds left here. Gundogan playing a ball through for Haaland. That's brilliant. Erling Haaland in the box. Can he make it 4? He almost does. Great save from Fabianski. It did go through his legs, but he was able to kill the pace of the ball with a save. And it was almost a 4th for Erling Haaland. Paqueta now away from Rico Lewis. Playing it through for Somerville in the area. Playing it to his right to Füllkrug. Tackled by Ake, but falls to Somerville, who bend into the far corner. It's a brilliant fingertip save from Ederson onto the post. And somehow at the end of this game, Manchester City haven't made it 4-1. And at the other end, West Ham have failed to make it 3-2. Looks certain to go in there for Crysencio Somerville, who was already wheeling away in celebration. But Ederson, stretching as best he could, stopped it from going in. And Haaland at the other end was also almightily close to getting a 4th goal. But that will be that for Manchester City this evening. They are winners at the London Stadium. They are winners against West Ham again. It is becoming rather ridiculous. That is now 18 unbeaten for Manchester City against West Ham in the Premier League. The last time they fell to a defeat here in the league against West Ham was in September 2015. It is absolutely ridiculous, the record they have against the Hammers. They just keep beating them. West Ham have no answer, even under the new management of Julian Lopetegui. And it's Guardiola who have got the perfect start from his Manchester City team this season. They've won the Community Shield. They have gone 3 for 3 in the Premier League right before the international break, and it does look like it will be Manchester City who once again are the team to beat this season, as of course they'll be battling with the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool for that title. But it's Manchester City who take the early advantage going into the first international break. The goal scoring started with Erling Haaland in the 10th minute, played through by Bernardo Silva. 10 minutes later, an own goal from Diaz made it 1-1 off after a Bowen cross. It was made 2-1. Haaland, a thunderous strike into the top right corner, made it very difficult and very much impossible for Alphonse Areola to save that strike. And then after half-time, Manchester City struggled to get that 3rd goal to really put themselves out of West Ham's reach, but they were able to get it through Erling Haaland's hat-trick in the 83rd minute. Play through by Nunez, 1-on-1 with Fabianski, lifted it beyond him into the bottom right corner, giving Manchester City a 2-goal lead, and they were able to see that through. and it did look all day like it was always going to be a Manchester City win. They were quite unfortunate to concede with the Diaz own goal. Pep Guardiola will, of course, want and will probably see some improvement from his City side. Obviously, from a neutral point of view, it's almost looking perfect. I just don't quite understand where you can improve too much, because that was very solid. Like I say, they only conceded an own goal, because on the basis of it, that's almost a 3-0 win. They're so good. They're so relentless. They're so reliable. You just know Manchester City will, more likely than not, always put on a performance. Whatever people say, they are the best in the world, and they will be looking to try and regain that European title in the Champions League. They'll be looking to retain the Premier League for a 5th time in a row. They'll be looking to do the lot. They will find it difficult. They've got plenty of teams wanting to bring them down, but at the moment, no one has even got close to touching this Manchester City team at the start of the season. They will be all that is talked about tonight, and it is Supersonic Manchester City, who are on top of the Premier League going in to the international break. Hope you'd enjoy. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Next commentary on Monday night, where Salford host MK Dons in League 2. But here from the London Stadium, it's a Haaland hat-trick. It's his 11th in Manchester City colours. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Manchester City roll on to another 3 points. They are top of the league as it finishes here at the London Stadium. West Ham 1, Manchester City 3.